Hey guys. Today is very early in the morning. I believe it's about 12:30 or so. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the time right now, but it is January the 15th, 2024. And I am getting up here today to kind of give you guys an update of what has gone on during the trial between myself and my ex, from an incident that occurred back in 2021. Actually, it started on the night of November the 30th of 2021 and carried over into the morning of December the 1st, 2021. And we have been going back and forth to court since that time. So I wanted to just go ahead and do a video. It is late night, guys. I'm normally in the bed. I have my bonnet on. And I think I'm going to probably do a few of these over the week. I'm trying to think of what to name it. I'm likely going to name it something like Surviving S or something like that. That seems to be kind of trendy right now. But this is going to be episode 1. And I just want to kind of talk to you guys about how that experience was. I'm sure that there's somebody out there that's going through a similar situation. You know, we have way too many. The numbers are really high when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assaults and all of that. So I know for sure we have people who are going through these types of situations. And I feel like somebody somewhere will benefit from it. So, once I post this to my YouTube, I'm going to be sharing it on my social media. I'm going to ask that you guys, I want you to share this. So, even if you don't listen to the full video, just please share it so somebody can get something out of it. I really want something positive to come out of this negative experience that I had in this relationship. So, again, yeah, that's what I'm going to name it. Surviving S. Surviving S. So, just to kind of just take you guys back to the beginning of this particular situation. Like I said, it started out on November the 30th of 2021 and it carried over into the morning of December the 1st. Just to give you some background information on this. I have more background information, but like I said, throughout the week, I'm going to be doing stuff. I'm going to be showing y'all videos. I'm going to let y'all listen to audio from this, what was transpiring during that time. I have some documents. I might end up going over the documents, some of the documents tonight, but I have a lot of different stuff. And not all of it was used in our trial, So I just want to kind of talk about that. And, for those of you who may be going to court and going to trial, I also want to just share some of the things that caused a little bit of a hiccup in the trial, so that you'll know what to look out for, and just to kind of make sure that you guys are prepared for that as well. Because we certainly need to make sure that we're fighting back. If you're going through a domestic violence or sexual abuse type of situation, any type of situation where you're a victim in it, always fight back. Always fight back. A lot of things happen to other people because we experience it first and we don't fight back. And we have to help each other out, right? Because that other person doesn't know. But if you fight back and we're able to get these people registered and they're able to be convicted for the crimes that they're committing, it helps everybody out. So just make sure that you're fighting back and you're sticking to it and you don't get frustrated. It can be a frustrating situation, but just do that, and you get your power back that way as well. But I was in a relationship with a guy that I actually knew over 30 years. We were, when I was younger, in a relationship. Um, when I was 16, we were also in a relationship, and he was actually older than me, so we probably shouldn't have been in a relationship. He was grown, but we were. Uh, Fast forward to recent years, we ended up getting back together, and then we ended up getting back together, and there started to be some hiccups in the recent relationship, and I called off the engagement, and we decided to go our separate ways. Okay. um and I mean, these were, we were having hiccups. He was being possessive and watching my every move. He had installed cameras in my business. He was watching me from my house. He was constantly calling me. He was doing those types of things, which were all red flags that I kind of ignored. He didn't want me to spend time with my family, things of that nature. But then we had some more serious things that took place. Um, One, I want to be tasteful because I know that this is going to be online, and I don't want anyone, the other victim, to have to relive or go through any of this stuff. So I won't say what happened in that situation. Just know that it was a situation that I personally can't accept. I can't deal with anybody to do those types of things. But he was also living a whole different lifestyle. So I feel almost like it was a double life. He had another preference. So I hope you guys know what I mean. Um, and that he didn't make me aware of. So that was also part of the problem. So at this stage, at this point on that particular day, um, we were absolutely not together at all. We weren't romantically involved in any type of way. He did try earlier that day to spark a conversation to, try to rekindle something, but that was not very early. I actually was disgusted by him. We ended up getting in an argument, and I expressed all of the issues that I had with him and told him that I would never deal with him again. So, by no means were we romantically involved on that day. All right. So fast forward into later on that evening, I am sitting at my computer desk working on some stuff because my daughter had recently passed and I wasn't at work, but I was going back to work and I had a new class that was coming. So I was preparing for that class. He also worked from home. He did customer service from home in addition to unloading truckloads of furniture as a part-time job that he would kind of do on the weekends and other days. But at this particular time, he was working from home. Um, I did smell food in the kitchen cooking, but I didn't visit the kitchen because I was just frustrated, and I didn't want to be around him at all. He decided that he wants to bring me a plate of food. Now, mind you, I'm not talking to you. I'm not dealing with you in any kind of way. I haven't spoken to you all day outside of our argument. You bring me a plate of food. I ignore you and the plate of food. The food is still sitting there on the computer desk. I wrap up what I'm doing for the evening, and then I go upstairs to my room where I get ready for bed. I lock my doors. I lock my room door. I lock my bathroom door because it's connected to my room and to the hallway so that he can't get in either the bathroom or my bedroom. Okay. So, and there was no need for him to come upstairs because there was a bathroom downstairs. He had his futon downstairs where he slept. We had already had an arrangement. He had already had a new residence locked in that he was due to be moving in that weekend. So there was no need. There was nothing going on between us. Um, After he gets off of work late on that night, he decides that he wants to come upstairs into my bedroom. He tries to, turn the knob, and of course it's locked because I'm not expecting you to come up. You haven't been up here all week. You've been downstairs. We haven't been talking. We don't get along. Why are you coming up to my bedroom? Right. However, 2 days before that, he came up to my bedroom as well to get something out of one of his packed up boxes that was up in the bedroom. And at that time, I hadn't let him in, and he broke the door down to get in. He did fix it, but I didn't want that same type of issue to happen on that night. and he made a threat to break it down on that night. So I let him into the room and hop back in the bed and put the covers over me. Instead of him going into the box to get something out, he decides that he wants to get in the bed with me. He says to me, my back is hurting. I'm not sleeping downstairs on that floor again tonight. You didn't have to sleep on the floor. You tied up your futon, which you can easily untie and unfold. It's not a difficult futon to, take back out. You've been sleeping down there with your daughter in the futon all week before you took her home. It's not a difficult thing to do, right? And I don't care if your back is hurting or not. I'm not with you. So I see him getting into bed. I attempt to get out the bed. I'm not going to tell y'all every single graphic detail. I really don't even want to relive all of this stuff. What I will say to you is I continuously tried to get away from this man. He would not let me get away from him. There was a point where I convinced him to let me in the bathroom. And he did, but he said I wasn't peeing fast enough, and I was trying to call the police actually. But he held me hostage in my room, and he took sex from me several times throughout the night. So let me just call it for what it is, because I've been just kind of talking around it. This man held me hostage in my room and raped me continuously throughout the night. There were some attempts where I tried to get away. I was unsuccessful at that. He ended up calling my ex on my phone, and he's a coward, so he's not talking to my ex, but he's yelling and screaming at me. The phone call ends. He kicks the phone over. I don't see the phone. So I'm continuing to be tortured throughout the night. I can't get out of the room. I can't get out of the bed. You push me down, force sex on me. You're punching me in my head and my knees. I've never heard of that before. Never ever heard of that before. It's almost like he knows how to beat women because he has experience doing it. Normally someone is fighting you, that they're hitting you everywhere, your face, your everywhere. He didn't do that. But he still had me in pain, punched me in my head, punching me in my knees, pinning me down with his arms and legs, pinning my arms and legs down as he took sex for me throughout the course of the night. And again, I'm not getting into all of the specifics, but in a nutshell, that's what ended up happening. I was in such shock and so hurt at that particular time. It was even a point where I just froze and said, I can't even believe you're doing this to me of all people. You're doing this to me. When I tell y'all I trusted that man, and I'm not going to say I don't trust easy, because I normally trust people until they give me a reason not to. But I still do it with some hesitancy. I'm still like trying to be mindful of my surroundings and what's going on. So I don't think I wholeheartedly trust people, right? But I did trust that man, even though we weren't together. Like, there was a period where I trusted him. I told him things I haven't even told my family. He knows things about me my family doesn't even know. I trusted him with every part of me. Like I told you, I was gonna marry this man. So it was just a lot to go through in that night. So I went through all of that night. He punched a hole in the wall. Pieces of the hole in the wall, like the walls, whatever the stuff is made out of, is like literally laying on my bed. Like, he had skin coming from his hand was bleeding. There's blood droppings on my bed from his hand in that night. I endured that all night long. Like I said, it was from maybe about 11:30 until 7 something the next morning. And this is when he gets up, and basically, because he feels I'm in control of the situation, I got you. And that's kind of what he was doing throughout the night. Like, he's the one in control, And every time I would fight back, it was like he was punishing me back with the sex. I can't quite describe it, but that was his way of tormenting me and torturing me throughout the night to say, you're going to listen, you're going to do what I say, don't move, I'm going to do this to you. And every time I would move and fight, that's when he would force the sex on me. That's when he would take it. And it was, I felt like it was to make me just feel like low, really. I felt just really, really low in that moment. And I didn't have any control. And it didn't make it better that I was like literally just getting off of oxygen, just getting through blood transfusion, just losing my daughter. I was sick. I was sick at that time. Y'all, something's going on. I don't know what's going on. But I was really sick at that time. And I barely had strength to fight. But to be honest with y'all, I don't even know if I would have had the strength to fight if I would have for him. I was really at that time more trying to block and shield myself than actually fighting him in that moment. I wasn't trying to hurt him. And to be honest with y'all, this is not my first time in a domestic situation. Normally when you hit and y'all can tell me what y'all think about this, but it gets worse. You know, a lot of times when people end up dying in domestic violence type situations is because they were fighting, and that person that's trying to control them is not going to let you control them. They're not going to let you overpower them. So it's just going to get harder. It's just going to get worse because they're still trying to prove that they're the ones who is in control. So I was just basically in survival mode. I remember thinking to myself, he should just get out of this alive. I did not know when he started punching me in my head. I did not know if I was gonna get out of this alive. I never. I honestly never have seen him like he has attitude, and there was an episode a couple of weeks before that when he did put his hands on me for the first time. But I had never in my life seen him that enraged. And I did not know if I was going to make it that night. I really did not know if I was going to make it that night. He was really upset and he kept saying things that would make him madder and madder and madder as he hit me that night. So I I was just going back to the next morning, you know, when the next morning came. Normally I go and get my grandbabies. Like I said, my daughter passed. So I was going to get my grandbabies from their dad every morning to help him out so he can go to work. Although I was working from home. So I could get the kids on the bus, the two that were in school on the bus, and then I could bring my baby over, my grandbaby over there, which he did pretty well while I worked, you know, as long as I just had him set up. That was like our normal routine. And of course, because my boyfriend was controlling, my ex, he always wanted to go with me. So when he got up that morning, he was like, "Go ahead and get yourself together." Like it was just so demanding. Like I'm gonna control all of this situation now. Like get yourself together. And he turned around all cocky and started um putting on his clothes and everything. But while he was turned around, I saw my phone and I eased it over with my foot, and I was able to text 911. I didn't call 911. I actually texted something's going on with my eyes and they real sensitive to this light. I don't know what's going on. But I actually texted 911 and I told him to come to my house, and it was very vague because I wanted to be quick. I didn't want him to catch me texting. But I wanted it to be discreet, and I wanted him to come while he was there. I wanted them to come. So, and this is why I say that the city of Portsmouth, they failed me. It was just so many things that they did wrong in this situation, and I'm gonna point them out. Like I said, I'm gonna be probably talking about this all week. But instead of them taking it as a serious matter and say, okay, would this person text us instead of calling us? I mean, and that's how I knew to text them, because I saw a commercial talking about if you're in a dangerous situation, you can text us instead of calling us and all of that stuff. And I had texted them, and instead of them actually just sending somebody out, they text me back. And when they text me back, which I'm surprised that he didn't take the phone, but instead he started punching me in my head again, and he basically was saying, "Who are you texting? I know you're not texting about. We're gonna have a good day today, right?" So again, just trying to control me in that situation, and just reinforce the fact that he is in control. So luckily, however, while we were sitting there and I was just sitting, I never started putting on my clothes. I was in shock. Um the police did start banging on the door, and he went to the window, and then you have, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Excuse my French. But that's what he said. It's the police. And I was like, good. Guys, I didn't have much energy that whole night. I was frustrated. I was up for hours trying to shield and protect myself from this man. But I got so much energy when those police officers came. I was so happy that the police officers came. I started going out towards the door. He was no longer trying to keep me trapped because the police was there. All you heard him say was, sorry, sorry, sorry. I'll leave, I'll leave, I'll leave. And me and my energy, and I'm heading towards the steps to go downstairs. I'm like, no, don't leave now. So he's finishing putting up his stuff, and I'm heading down the stairs to open it up for the police. He's at the top of the stairs. I open the door for the police. The police are there. And I immediately start screaming to these police, it's me. I'm the one who called you. There he go right there. Right? But I'm screaming it like I'm hysterical screaming it. Guys, the gown I had on was short, came maybe to my thighs. I didn't even try to pull it up. They could see my private area, everything. And I could see in the police officer's eyes that he was uncomfortable with me coming there and being exposed. But I was screaming frantically because I had just gone through that. I didn't think about trying to straighten myself up or anything like that. But the police officer, instead of consoling me and seeing what was going on, you could see clearly that he was annoyed that I was screaming. And I'm telling him, you know, after I tell him that it's me and he was the one who did it, and I'm telling him that this man held me in my room all night. He raped me all night. You can go up there and look at the hole in the wall. This is what I'm saying to this man. And he's just acting like he's frustrated with me, looking the other way. And instead of acknowledging anything that I had to say, he immediately started talking to my ex. Sir, do you live here? Like, why would that be your response in that situation? I done told you all that I just told you. Why would that be your response? Why are you trying to cater to him and ask him if he lives here when I just told you everything that he did? In my mind, you should immediately be grabbing him in custody and asking questions later, because I'm telling you that this man did this to me, and I text you to be discreet. So something is going on here. But of course he didn't do that. And of course my ex gladly gave him the ID that shows the address up there, because he had his address changed to my address because he had been staying there. And he then responds to the police, oh, she just trying to, I didn't do nothing to her. She just trying to say I raped her because I want to leave and take all of my stuff out of the house. That was what he told that original arriving police officer. Sir, this is the police officer. Did you tell her you were going to leave? Yeah, I told her I was going to leave. Well, let's get out of here so she can be quiet. This is the police officer. So he takes him outside, and y'all, I am infuriated at that moment. I am so heated. So I'm still in shock. I'm worked up. My head is hurting. My chest is pounding. Now I'm upset because I'm telling you that this man is doing this to me, and you're acting like I'm the problem. You're acting like I'm the problem. Then I see you and you're not arresting him or anything. You're basically about to let him walk away. So I go upstairs and get my phone and I call the police now. At this point, I'm calling the police. I need a supervisor out here now. This police officer is letting him go after I told him this man raped me. After I told him this man raped me. I told him everything that I told y'all. He said, I told him that I did tell him that he was going to be leaving that Friday, not the Friday before, that Friday. So it wasn't a matter of me wanting him to get out of my house. We already had the arrangements for him to get out of the house. I wasn't calling the police to have them get him out of my house. It was no need to. But this police officer just did not pay attention to the stuff that I was saying. He was irritated with me. He needs some training. They need some training for situations like this. But he was getting ready to let this man go. So the dispatch told me that the supervisor they were giving me to would be their dispatch supervisor, but they would get a sergeant out there for that police officer. So they actually called him on the radio and told him they were sending somebody out not to let my ex go. So they sent a sergeant out there. They also sent the special victims unit out there where 2 detectives came. And they were able, the sergeant never came in and said a thing to me. He did whatever he did with them on the outside. But the detectives came in and they started talking to me. They did their routine. They talked to me, asked me what was going on. She came and told me that she's going to need to send me over to a medical examiner. I didn't have any clothes on, so she was like, I needed to take the gown with me and to get myself together. Their first available appointment was like at 11 o'clock or something like that. Then she had her partner come back in and he took pictures of me. They took pictures of the hole in the wall, my face, all of that stuff, like, you know, what I looked like at that moment. So, needless to say, we went through that whole process. He did end up getting arrested. So we went through the whole process. I went down there and, guys, this is, I want you, if you're in this situation, definitely make sure that you do this. When you go down there, the doctor is going to be nice to you. They're going to interview you and take pictures of you, test you for sexually transmitted diseases, ask if you're hurting, get DNA, and they're going to do all of that stuff. So it is going to be a lengthy process. And I'm going to be honest with you, it is an intrusive process. You feel uncomfortable in that process. They're not doing it, they're nice and everything, but it's an uncomfortable process to have to go through. Don't, well, they're going to tell you that anyway, but even if you're in a situation, excuse me, if you're in a situation where maybe a detective is not present or anything, make sure that you don't use the bathroom, you don't wash, anything like that. I didn't do any of that. I went there exactly how I was. So they were able to get a lot of DNA off of me, but just make sure, you know, don't not do that part of it, okay? Because that is definitely going to be critical to your case when it comes to testimony and all of that stuff. So you want to make sure that you go down there and you get that done. But anyway, I went down there and I got that done. I told her what had transpired that day. And we actually just had a conversation overall. And actually, I shared with her that I actually shared with her that it wasn't even the first time. So, guys, it wasn't the first time that he had taken sex from me. the difference with this time is that this time he was actually fighting me at the same time, and I wasn't with him, and that he was fighting me this time and making me stay in the room. So it was a completely different experience, although every time that he took it, it was wrong. um but we went through that, and at the end of the day, we ended up having a court date, and we went to the first court date back in February of 2022. Yeah, we went to the court date back in February of 2022, and he was found guilty of assault immediately during that court date. Now, I found out on my birthday that he had appealed the court's decision, and he was out on bond. And the reason I found that out is because I'm in Michigan driving, and the police officer pulls me over and say, "Hey, you have a warrant in Portsmouth, Virginia." They can't say Portsmouth, right? And this man had went down there on Valentine's Day, so that tells you what his mindset was. He went down there on Valentine's Day and pressed false charges on me. All right, saying that I had got something in his name. Listen, guys, he lived with me. He personally didn't like the speed of my internet, and that I only had internet. And he was taking over all the bills when he came and moved in with me. So he called and canceled that account and started the account in his name, where he can have cable, all his channels, and all that extra stuff he wanted. I don't need all that. But the judge immediately threw it out. But it just goes to show, like, you did all of that to me and you still had no remorse. You went and took fake charges out on me and all of that. So, but that's neither here nor there regarding this case. But it was just a lot with it. So, of course, he played the games. First he wants a court appointed lawyer. And then he played the game of, I need to hire a lawyer. Then after he hired a lawyer, first he's going to do the regular trial with the judge. Oh, and then no, I want to do a jury trial. By the time he did every little maneuver that he could do, getting stuff ready, filing this, filing that, we are going from December 1st of 2021 when it happened to up into this week, last week, the 10th of January 2024 is when we finally get to do the full trial. We did have another trial before this, which he lucked out. He got to be the luckiest man in America. He lucked up on, because the doctor had told some things that I told her about other times when he took it from me, but the prosecutor hadn't asked me about it, and I didn't testify against it. And the judge, because it was for a prior incident, they didn't want him to be tainted. They didn't want the jury to only be thinking about that throughout the rest of the trial before all of the other evidence could be presented. So they made it a mistrial. And I'm gonna tell you, they were looking really bad during that. That his lawyer, every question that he asked me, it just really just made him look worse. But I mean, it was the truth. It was what was happening. But of course, that gave them an advantage as well, because now they know what I'm gonna say. So he didn't ask any of those questions that made them look bad the first time. Now he came in with a whole nother approach, right? And I mean, the testimony and all of that stuff was good. I will say that there were parts in my testimony where they asked me certain questions and I didn't remember. And let me just, for those of you who don't know, when you go through traumatic situations, like, you're gonna not remember. After a while, your mind is gonna subconsciously try to block certain things out. And this had happened in 2021, and we're going to court in 2024. So these people are in there asking me the unbelievable, the impossible in my mind. What hand did this? What time was this? What part of the body part was this? How did this part look? Listen, I can't remember that stuff on a regular day. And you're asking me to remember that stuff while I am getting attacked and raped and hit and trying to shield myself and get someone off of me. The questions that you were asking me just was it was my mind was blown. My mind was blown in that situation because I was the victim. And guys, I'm not saying this for you not to do it, because you still need to fight, because if you don't, they're going to keep doing it. But I was the victim and I was being treated like the abuser. It was almost like I was the one on trial. Of course, he didn't talk because he didn't want to stick his foot in his mouth. I had to talk, and then we had our witnesses that talked. And excuse me. It was, I'm gonna say it was quite an experience. We couldn't use the arriving officer and what he told them, because when he went to the PC, he gave them a completely different story. It wasn't he was trying to move out and he wanted to get his stuff, and I said that he raped me. That's the only reason. When he went to the PC that day, he told them that we were making up, that he cooked me a romantic dinner. We ate dinner together. Then we went upstairs and we made love. The sex was consensual. We made love is the word that he used, right? Which was completely different, first of all, from what he told the arriving officer. So of course, while we was preparing for trial, I'm telling the Commonwealth, look, no, I need that arriving officer to come, because that's not what he told that arriving officer. And I kept wondering, she kept saying, no, we're not going to use him. We're not going to. I'm like, why wouldn't we use him? He's the main person. He told two different stories. Come to find out, we couldn't use him because he wasn't going to help us. She said his report doesn't reflect what you're saying. And I was like, well, what is it saying? I had never looked at the report from the police. Right? So I went, and I know I'm skipping past the trial. I'm going to come back to the trial. I went to the police station. This is before we got to this trial, because I wanted to use this man. And I ordered a police report. I actually ordered a police report and the body cam. But they would not give me the body cam because they said we were in the middle of the trial. So I couldn't get the body cam until after the trial. I read this police officer's report. And the report, the way that it's worded is as if I was calling them to remove him from the residence, and he wouldn't leave the residence. And then after the police officer told him that he lived there, that I then said he raped me. So, and I know why the police officer did it, because I called his superior on him. He didn't handle that situation the correct way, and he was going to get in trouble for that, because he definitely didn't handle that situation the right way. But you have someone who is supposed to be protecting and serving, covering their own tail, looking out for their own best interests, and not looking out for me, who is the victim, right? And this whole time, I'm trying to wrap my mind around why this man was even ever able to get out on bond or any of that. I'm like, they told me he won't be able to get out on bond, and they was going to call me. They didn't call me, first of all. Like I said, I got stopped and found out he was out on bond, so he could have been stalking me or doing anything in between that time. I would never know, you know. I did not know until they had mercy on me and did not arrest me in Michigan, and I had to go and turn myself in. But he wrote that report. He did something unethical. Luckily, I called the other police officers, and they had reports and stuff, and they ended up being our credible law enforcement, because that could have probably backfired somewhere later if he wasn't the only police officer. But it was just mind-boggling to me that he did that, right? Um, Now I will say in that situation, I did actually call. I went. As a matter of fact, y'all, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up this thing, and I'm gonna read this to y'all. I'm gonna pull up my email. Had to put it down for a second, but let me get this computer. I'm gonna go right to my email. I'm gonna come back to this trial in a minute, guys, because this is an interesting trial right here. I mean, the prosecutor I was working with the whole time, she never really asked me what I wanted. She the whole time just was thinking about a conviction. She was trying to work out a plea. Never asked me what I wanted. I never wanted a plea. I wanted a trial. So she never prepared for a trial. This lady wasn't calling me or anything. I always called her. We ended up talking the day of or the day before when we had to go to court. So she was never prepared for anything. And then they gave me a new prosecutor 2 days before we just did this last trial that had to get caught up on everything, and she didn't have all the information. So we're going to definitely get back to this trial. But I'm going to pull up my email here just so I can read y'all the complaint, because I know this man walked around with that police report like it was a badge of honor. He used that police report to get out on bond. His sister and I had talked when he got locked up after the incident. And she was upset with him, but all of a sudden, and I'm not telling you to be, I'm not saying that people should be mad at their siblings forever. You know, it's just that the way that it went from one point to another, I was like, well, they mighty friendly now, you know. So it was just interesting to me. But once I read that report, I was like, oh, now I understand how he got on bond, because they made it seem like I just said that just because, you know, I wanted just something to happen and it didn't really happen. Now I see why the family looking at me sideways, and they all buddy with him. Now I see why somebody will even be willing to be in a relationship with somebody who did what he did, you know, because the way that police report was worded, it really made me look like I was the villain and I was just being vindictive. But this is a complaint. I had originally sent it to Internal Affairs because I thought that I was supposed to send it to Internal Affairs, but they sent it back and said that they only took complaints for state police. So they told me to send it to the Human Resources for the police department. And I'm going to leave his name out of this, but I'm going to read this to y'all so that y'all can know what kind of complaint I wrote. And then I'm going to tell y'all what the outcome of the complaint was and what happened with the police officer, you know, and why nobody used that report in the trial. Okay. So this is what I wrote, you know. To whom it may concern, it is with great regret that I am writing this letter to officially file a complaint against the City of Portsmouth, Virginia Police Department. I had hoped that the organization that I trusted to protect and serve would employ an ethical staff. However, I found that not to be the case for several reasons. Okay. Let me just go down to this. My eyes, y'all. Sadly, on December the 1st of 2021, I had to reach out to the police department because of being a victim of an abduction, assault, and rape crime. As I feared for my safety, I need my glasses. As I feared for my safety, I did not contact the department in a traditional manner of calling 911, but instead decided to discreetly text them and said, I had hoped that they would arrive catching my abuser off guard so that he would be arrested. However, instead of simply sending an officer to the scene, the dispatcher texted me back, putting me in further danger and resulting in my abuser assaulting me more by punching me in the head while questioning who I was texting due to their, and in parentheses I have 911. And I'm going to show y'all this too so that y'all see this. I want y'all to see this. This is what I'm reading from. So, catching my abuser off guard so that they would be arrested. However, instead of simply sending an officer to the scene, the dispatcher, excuse me, sent them to the scene. Oh, questioning the video. Okay. God dang it. My eyes is like crazy right now, y'all. Okay, so instead of sending the dispatcher to the scene, the dispatcher texted me back, putting me in further danger and resulting in my abuser assaulting me more by punching me in the head while questioning who I was texting due to their 911's negligent actions. My text message was very vague, requesting that the police officer be sent to my residence, as well as this was all I had time to send, so that my attacker would not notice that what I was doing. Because the details of the event were not shared via text, it is my opinion, as well as opinions of others of whom I have confided in, that this should have been considered an urgent matter. Had this been a situation where a gun was involved or my attacker became even more enraged, this crime could have escalated into something far worse, perhaps even death. Okay? Just scrolling down. So, the department did end up sending an officer. According to the report that I received, the officer's name, and I put the officer's name and badge number. He knocked at the door, and my abuser, and I put the abuser name, looked out of the window, and the abuser name then went on to tell me that it was police. Relieved, I immediately jumped up and headed out my bedroom door and toward the stairs, so that I could share the trauma that I had just experienced for about the last 8 hours. As I was going to the door and trying to head downstairs, my abuser told me 3 times that they were sorry and begged me not to say anything, promising to leave. I continued to run down the stairs, barely dressed in my gown and nothing else. It was quite possible that my private area was exposed because I was feeling shocked, still anxious, and my gown was extremely short. I remember opening the door and immediately yelling while looking up the stairs, "I'm the one that called. There he goes. He did it to me." I know I was loud because while I was explaining the details of the event, the officer continued to tell me to lower my voice, but not in a concerned manner, but more like he was aggravated and tired of speaking to me. He was completely insensitive. He completely disregarded everything that I said to him about being hit, locked in my room, and raped. He just started asking my abuser questions. He asked if he lived at my house, and of course my abuser did not hesitate to show his ID. Also being dishonest while stating that I was just saying that he raped me because he was moving and taking all of his stuff. At this point, I did share with the officer that my abuser had said the same thing about his ex, which we'll get into a little bit later, that had pressed rape charges against on him, and that he and I had broken up, and that he was scheduled to move out to his own place that upcoming Friday. Also sharing that we were no longer together and that I did not welcome him in my room. Again, the officer disregarded me and asked my abuser if he would leave, of which he responded yes. The officer then told him to go ahead out the house so that I would be quiet, once again being completely insensitive. Once my abuser left the house, so did the officer. He looked as if he was letting my abuser get away with everything that I had just shared with him, and the only thing that he did was tell him to leave the house. As he was at his car and my abuser was walking away, I ran upstairs to grab my phone and called 911. When I called, I immediately asked for a supervisor. They gave me dispatch's supervisor, and I told him that I told him all that had occurred and expressed my disappointment that the officer was allowing my abuser to leave, completely disregarding the rape and assault. He explained that he would get the police supervisor to me. I have not discussed all of the details of this crime as we are currently awaiting trial, and I put the trial date. At that time, it was July 27th coming up. My complaint is that the officer, I put the officer's name, looked out for his own best interest and not mine, not only in handling the incident, but also when writing his report. I'm requesting that a full investigation where the contents of the body cam I've ordered, and I told him I ordered one, but I can't get one, are fully observed and compared to the report that was written. Not only was this officer insensitive, but his actions have negatively impacted other things, such as my abuser being released on bond, not being able to have the arriving officer testify to abuser's original statements, etc., because it insinuates that I was making up the rape after he would not leave my residence, when that was not the issue, as we had already had an agreement on a date of which he would be moving. He had already removed him from the residence, so why would I need to further escalate his actions to his supervisor if that was what I wanted the end result to be? I am confident that after further review of the webcam, you will agree that this officer was completely incompetent in his actions and was trying to avoid reprimand clearly. I would like to say that the sexual victim unit was very considerate and professional during their investigations of this matter, although I'm not sure if they ever took the picture of my abuser's hand, of which would have been critical evidence in this case considering he punched the wall. They did, however, make sure that there was a protection order and even checked on me. And I'm not quite sure who was supposed to make me aware of my abuser being released on bond. I feel like it was a job of the Commonwealth, of which I have concerns about. However, in any event, I was never notified. Again, something else that could have had me in grave danger. This entire ordeal has caused me nothing but stress, depression, nights without sleep, and even loss of appetite. I cannot express my disappointment enough, but am hopeful that with me reaching out and extending you the opportunity to correct the behavior, that something will be done. I also highly recommend that all officers receive sensitivity training for situations such as this and others that may require a more delicate approach. So that was the complaint letter that I filed against the Portsmouth Police Department. And actually, they did do the investigation 2 days later. They told me it was going to take up to 2 weeks. But 2 days later, they called me back and told me that they had completed the investigation and that police officer had been released from the force and that they were putting the results of my investigation in his file in the event that he tried to apply with any other jurisdiction. So I'm just saying that to say that this police report that this unethical police officer wrote, that this man went around, he got bond with it, he shared it with his whole family, likely anybody he's dealing with, made it seem like I was the villain and I was doing something wrong to him, wasn't even a good police report. And as you guys can see, all I did was ask them to look at what he wrote on that police report and look at the body cam to see what really happened. Okay, so I'm just putting that there because that was another place. So first you have the 911 call where they text me back instead of just coming to check on me, which if he had a gun, he would have shot me. Then you have the police officer who did not write an ethical police report because he didn't want to get reprimanded for not handling the situation right, and he wanted to CYA. Okay, so you got a dangerous man out on the loose, right, that knows how to play the game. He knew that when he got out, he just needed to play his cards right so he seemed like an angel. But that's what actually happened there. So I wanted to say that because I know how I look to a lot of people. And to be honest with you, if I would have looked at that police report, I probably would have thought the same thing, because you think that the police is going to do something ethical, right? And they would be credible. But anyway, just going back to the trial. So we went through our trial. Again, I felt like I was the victim. I mean, I was the victim. I felt like I was the actual abuser in it because it seemed like I was on trial They were completely insensitive about a lot of things. They expected me to remember a lot of things. So I just wanted to say in that, guys, with trauma, you do naturally just forget about things. In my case, I had a lot of stuff going on, y'all. My mom had just became completely disabled. My mom is blind, right? She's handicapped, disabled, blind. My daughter passed away. I was sick with COVID pneumonia when I was in there. Like, we were in there at the same time. So I couldn't even really mourn and grieve over my daughter with dealing with this situation. Um, After that, he did this to me on December 1st. My stepdad and my dad ended up both dying from cancer. I had other medical issues, y'all. It was already bad I had those, but I had other medical issues as well. I just had a blood clot. My blood clot just cleared up, thank the God, thank the Lord. But I had that. Y'all know I have a lump. They said my lump in my throat is okay because nothing's wrong with my voice box. Now they're just waiting on the test for my kidneys because I have a mass in both of my kidneys, right? So I have a whole lot of stuff going on, and I really at one point I was going crazy because I tried to work myself to death so I wouldn't think about anything. But then I went into like a depression like a few months later, and I was just like in my room. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't doing anything. So I wanted to block this situation out. I did not want this man to still have control over me while we awaited trial. And I don't expect you guys to do that either. But what I will say is write down what happened so you have as much details as possible. Because after a while, you're going to want to not think about it, right? And you don't want that to be the thing that they use against you in during your trial. So make sure you write it down. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. They try to say I didn't have emotions. Like right now, I'm not crying or anything like that. It's been 3 years. I'm over it. At this point, I'm not over it because I still have my moments. As a matter of fact, during that trial, I didn't break down while I was on the stand, but I actually broke down. They had me in the side room when they wanted to separate the witnesses. I was on an emotional roller coaster then. So I'm glad someone did come with me. I normally go by myself, but I'm glad that person came with me for support because I think I would have lost it this week. I had a panic and anxiety attack a couple of times. Then I just kept crying. Like I would play like I don't know why I'm getting emotional now, but I would I started playing gospel music and I was just crying, and then I would get angry, and then when it was time for them to come in, they was doing their deliberations, and it was like Lord, see, I don't know what's going on with me, but when they was doing like their deliberations and going over like the explanations and the rules and all of that stuff, I just started crying again, like, and it was like an uncontrollable cry. I was shaking and everything. I had to leave out of the courtroom, during that time. So, and they use that against you, like whatever your emotions was and stuff. Like nobody can tell you how to feel. They're not going through it, but they will try to use it against you. They try to use my health against me. The evidence was overwhelming as far as what this man did to me. We had DNA evidence. You had tears. I had tears. They had the percentage. They had his DNA tears. My gown was ripped. The defense kept trying to use the parts of my body that didn't have bruises up there, but I never said that he struck me in those parts. But he kept on saying I didn't have bruises. He was, the medical examiner had said and this is what they said: with a vagina as healthy as mine, like the tears and rips and stuff wouldn't be there if this didn't occur. And they were talking about my flesh, right? So they even tried to use the other medical situations that was going on with me against me, and say that I wasn't healthy, so what she was saying wasn't valid. It was just crazy. So it was an ordeal. Um, in the end, there was a conviction. It was a jury trial. The jury, that was another thing, and this is somewhere else, because outside of all of those other things that I said as far as the city of Portsmouth, we are in Portsmouth. The people who were in the jury are people like us, and they're from Portsmouth. Um, Guys, those rules to what they were supposed to be doing, like, and the explanation of reasonable doubt and all that stuff, and they have like a list of rules that they have to go through and questions that they have to answer so that they can make sure that they're making a correct judgment. And let me tell y'all how many times these rules was explained to this jury. So first, when they first start, the judge gives them an overview of it. Then, and that's when the trial first starts, period. Then when it's time for them to get ready to go in the back and do the deliberations, the judge gives them a thorough review of all of the rules. Then you have the prosecutor. She doing her closing arguments, and she visits a few of the rules. You know, the judge already went over them. She visits a few of them, the ones that she wants them to really pay special attention to, especially the reasonable doubt in comparison to regular doubt, stuff like that. So you have another slight review of it. Then his lawyer, his defense lawyer, gets up there. Now, mind you, I didn't even tell you this part. The defense lawyer kept trying to bring all of this surprise stuff in, not telling that he hadn't told the prosecutor about the whole time. He waits to closing arguments and said, "Can I give them this document? It explains to them how they're supposed to deliberate and how they're supposed to rule out this and rule out that and this element." But stuff was missing from the document. It was really made where it was more convenient for him. But it was a confusing document. The judge didn't understand the document. The prosecutor didn't understand the document. And hell, when he was trying to explain it, I'm a learning development specialist. I teach people every day. I didn't understand what the hell that man was talking about. Excuse my French, you know. But he just made it real confusing. So they said, no, you can't use it. So then what he does is he tries to, oh, I can't give him the document. Guess what I'm going to do? In his closing arguments, now he's explaining what he wanted to give them in the piece of the document. So he's literally going through all of these rules. It's a lot of rules. I don't know, 15 or more rules, right? And y'all, when you get to this question, if you don't believe this and that and other, you got to answer this element, that element, this element. And he's going through it line by line by line by line. And after a while, it's just like wah, 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 wah. And nobody's listening to the way he was doing it. So he's confusing them. And then he's also telling them, now y'all don't, all these people are put in jail falsely and they have to be released later. How does that happen? Because juries do it. They put people in jail, then they have to be released. We don't want someone to go to jail. We know she forgets things. Now they're talking about me. I forget things. So how do we know whatever else she says is credible and this, that, and the other, right? So that's the only thing that was clear point. But everything else was just confusing. So what ends up happening is, and then after that, let me just explain that. Now the prosecutor comes back in because she can rebut him, right? He took about an hour and a half to do his closing arguments, right? But an hour of it was explaining the document and the rules and this element. I felt like it was a calculus damn test, to be honest with you, right? So she gets back up there and she tries to keep it brief, but she's still going over the rules that he went over and that may have confused them. So these people get in the back to deliberate. And they're back there maybe close to 2 hours. And it's about maybe 3 o'clock at this time. We've been in there since 9. Or so. So they've been there a while. Nobody's eating anything. They elected to skip lunch when they first went back there. But they now have a question. They come out, they ask a question. Guys, the question is, can the judge please come back here and explain to us rules 10 through 15? So they don't have confusion. They're not confused about one of the jury rule in question. They're confused about 5 of them. So the judge tells them, I'm not allowed to do that. I already explained it to you. The prosecutor explained it to you. The defense attorney explained it. I'm not allowed legally to explain it to you. You guys will have to do the best that you can to understand them and do your deliberation. And then he says, I know y'all have some stuff to go through. Would you like to go ahead and take your lunch now? Oh, no, we don't need to take our lunch. Y'all, I told that prosecutor, I said, that's a red flag for me. Because those rules, everybody, y'all, all y'all saying is common sense and they should be able to know it. They should know it. And y'all explained it. Y'all explained it several times. And these people are asking y'all, that's a red flag for me. That's really like, I'm really panicking because I'm like, they don't get it. And if you don't get something, what do? You don't want to be responsible for sending somebody to jail because you didn't understand something. When I tell you that those people came back in less than 5 minutes, just enough time for them to all mark what they was going to mark on a piece of paper and came back out, they had a verdict. We got 3 charges here that this man, all of them part of the same incident. We have 3 charges that this man is facing. One is assault and battery on me. The other is supposed to be, oh, I didn't tell y'all that part. I'm going to tell y'all that part. The other is supposed to be abduction with the intent to defile, which means you abducted me with the intent to take my personal liberty, and that includes rape or sexual assault. The third one is rape. So they come out, they did it in a different order, and they said rape, not guilty. I have abduction, guilty. Assault, not guilty. Okay. So first of all, I'm frustrated. I have no emotion at that time. Tears just started rolling down my face. Because I went through all of that and it didn't even get the title that it deserved. That man is a rapist and he didn't even get the title that he deserved. I didn't understand how you can say that it was proven that he was abducting me and holding me against my will in that room. He already admitted that he had sex with me. The medical examiner already said that I was ripped and torn. His DNA was all up in me at high percentages. I had a bruise on my arm and a bruise on my thigh, which is where he pinned me down. How can you say in that one incident when all of that stuff occurred that he abducted me, but the sex was consensual? He was holding me. So basically you're saying he was holding me against my will, but I wanted to have sex with him while he was holding me against my will. He didn't take it. That was a slap in the face. But then I looked up the charges and I said, oh, okay, abduction with intent to defile actually carries the most time. Rape actually starts at 5 to life. Abduction with the intent to defile is 20 to life. I said, oh, they gave him the worst charge. I had completely forgotten that the day before, and I don't know why they did this. I've never heard of this in my life. I don't go to court. I don't get in trouble, so I don't go to court a lot. But I forgot that the day before, they sent me and the jury out of the courtroom. Luckily, I had that person who went with me and my advocate in there so that I knew what was going on. They were in there after all of the key witnesses on our side went and the defense decided they were just going to arrest their case. They started negotiating the charges. We've been going to court for the same charges the last 3 years. Or the last 2 and something years, but it happened in 2021. But I didn't think that they made any changes. I was told that they was in there talking about the charges. When they described it to the jury, they said intent to defile is this. They was giving explanations of everything. And they included that in there. But why, when they did the final disposition on his record, They amended it from abduction with attempt to defile to abduction by force and intimidation, which changes that charge from a class 2 felony to a class 5 felony that to me basically ain't nothing. It's up to 10 years, but there's no minimum. So this man can go in there, y'all can give him probation, y'all can give him a year or whatever. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm going to go and do my victim impact statement. I'm going to do my letter and all of that. But that was just a real slap in the face for me because the case was proven. And I know it's not up to the judge. I mean, because that was something else that happened the day before. When of course, they send the jury out of the room. But he said a rape happened here. He said it out his own mouth. I know it was a jury trial. I know they're the ones who have to give it. But I don't know. I thought that the judge could overrule it. But I know that they do that is no benefit in them having a jury trial. So I understand that he did not overrule it. But for the life of me, I will never understand how you can say that I was abducted and the man he out his own mouth said sex happened. The doctors say that there were rips and tears. His DNA was there strong. And you not say that he raped me. And now he doesn't have to register or anything like that. And now he even got to come home on bond because y'all shouldn't have let him out on bond in the first place. But because he knows how to play the game and he's already out on bond. And of course he went and got him a girlfriend, they got a kid and all that stuff. So, I don't do any of these things. I'm a perfect citizen because he knows how to play the game, Now he's out on bond awaiting sentencing. Okay. So that's my frustration. So when I say that, yeah, we got a conviction, but I don't feel like there's no justice. I feel like the city of Portsmouth failed me. That's where I am with that. I really do feel like they failed me, But I want to talk about all of these signs and all of this other stuff. Like when this man left out my house, I found so much stuff. This right here, girlfriend right before me. This is the case. She filed rape charges on him. She filed assault charges on him. He wasn't found guilty. This is the stuff you don't see. When they're not found guilty, they don't use it in court. This man has this case. He has other assault cases. He has trespassing on her property. I went and talked to exes. They all said that he did the same thing as far as rape, fighting them, everything. Like, this man has been doing this for a while. And I'm going to tell y'all about some of the other stuff that happened before this case, which is crazy because, like I said, I have videos. This wasn't the first time. I have videos. I have audio. I have a lot. So, again, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this episode of Surviving S. Episode 1. But I just wanted to kind of tell you what I went through in this situation. And we did get some type of justice. Hopefully he'll get some time. And I don't want to tell nobody not to fight. Definitely make sure you fight. At least he has a felony on his record that is going to do something to him. But I don't feel like I got justice in the situation, but at least he didn't completely get away with it and don't have anything. So I do appreciate that. All right. So tomorrow I'll talk about how to look in the court system and look at the different charges. We need to start doing these men like the jobs do us, right? We start like the landlords do, check the court records, guilty or not guilty, check them. Because if you see a lot, it ain't got to, it's, after a while, it's not everybody else, it's them. If everybody's singing the same song, it's them. They doing it. Not guilty doesn't mean innocent. Dismissed doesn't mean innocent. They're doing it. And we got to start protecting ourselves. So I got some more stuff. I got some, that lifestyle. I have letters and receipts for that too. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.